Unfortunately, many times the church has forgotten that education is important, and it's important for God. Our minds are important to God. After all, our mind was God's idea. So he didn't create us as mindless creatures. He gave us this facility that gives us the ability to look at the world, to understand it, to reason, to critique, and to live, to navigate. But he told us, love the Lord your God with all your heart, soul, strength, and mind. Now, we love God with our minds by using our minds for the glory of God. So that's one affirmation directly from Jesus. Is your mind important? A friend of mine told me recently, he asked his middle school Sunday school class, what was the first thing Jesus was known for? And when he told me about that question, I thought, well, that's a good question. And of course, he was known for his brilliant mind, because at the age of 12, everybody was marveling, this guy is really brilliant. Look at the questions he's asking. So the very first thing we know that Jesus was recognized for was a really sharp mind. And then we have lots of commands in the Bible to seek knowledge, which is what education is all about. I wrote some down here. Wise men and women store up knowledge, Proverbs 10:14. Proverbs 15:14, the discerning heart seeks knowledge. Now the church reminds us we seek wisdom, and that's very important, but we're also, by the command of God, to seek knowledge. Another verse, Proverbs 18:15, an intelligent mind acquires knowledge, and the ear of the wise seeks knowledge. Another verse, Proverbs 25:2, it is the glory of kings to conceal things. The glory of God to conceal things, but the glory of kings to search them out. So we have this amazing ability to learn about things, to search things out. And what I find in the Bible, we have an important pattern for engaging people's minds. For instance, Romans 1:14, Paul said, I have a great sense of obligation. And who's that sense of obligation to? Well, to people in our culture and to people in other cultures, to the educated and the uneducated alike. Now, the church has done a fairly decent job of reaching people without education. We're much more comfortable reaching people with less education and less money than we have. The church normally doesn't do as good a job reaching people with a higher level of education and a higher level of income. And so I think our challenge today as a church across Europe is to make sure we have this sense of obligation. And we see in the Bible a pattern for engaging the academy. For instance, Paul, when he was at Ephesus, he was preaching in the synagogue, Acts 19, and he got kicked out of the synagogue because they had a church fight. And so where'd he go? He went to the hall of Tyrannus. Now the hall, the Greek word is skole, where we get school from. So he went to kind of an embryonic college. People weren't going there to hear a sermon. They weren't going there to be evangelized. They were going there to learn. It was a teaching place. And so he did this for 2 years, and the Bible says, so that all the Jews in Greece and the region of Asia heard the word of the Lord, because the ripple effect came out from that center. And of course, in the Old Testament, we have Daniel. Daniel was prime minister, and he was chancellor of a top university in the world. So here we got one of our Old Testament heroes that was a top flight higher education scholar, as well as prime minister of the nation, the most powerful nation in the world, heading the most powerful country and heading the top university in the world. Not a bad model to remind us that Christians need to be engaged in higher education.